Hello and welcome to Indus News. Live from Islamabad, I'm Naila Shuja and these are the headlines. In Pakistan, Chairman Joint Chiefs of Staff Committee General Nadeem Raza says the conduct of Aman exercise shows the country's resolve for regional peace. He said this while witnessing the band display by naval forces from different countries participating in the drills. General Raza said the exercise will help promote regional stability and a united resolve against maritime threats. Over 40 countries, including the United States, Russia, China, and Turkey, are taking place with the drills, which will continue till the 16th of February. In India, farmer leaders have condemned the arrest of 22-year-old climate change activist Disha Ravi. She was arrested after sharing a document first posted by Greta Thunberg in support of farmers' protests against the new agricultural laws. The protests are now in their third month, but the Modi government has yet failed to end the deadlock. In Afghanistan, the government claims to have killed 13 Taliban fighters in airstrikes in the Kandahar province. The attack comes soon after the group blamed Kabul for a surge in deadly violence. But National Security Advisor Hamdullah Mohib says that the Taliban have so far shown no desire for peace. The Saudi-led military coalition in Yemen says it has intercepted and destroyed 2 Houthi drones targeting Saudi Arabia. In a statement, it said that the attack was aimed at civilians in the southern part of the kingdom. The attack comes only days after the United States revoked the designation of the Houthis as a terrorist organization. China has slammed the United States' remarks accusing Beijing of lack of transparency in sharing data regarding origins of the coronavirus with the WHO. A spokesperson for the Chinese embassy in Washington said the United States' criticism has harmed multilateral cooperation and the WHO. The coronavirus has so far claimed nearly 2.4 million lives and infected over 108.5 million people. In Pakistan, over 1,400 contracted the virus and 31 more died overnight, raising the death toll to over 12,300. And in cricket, Pakistan are chasing a 165-run target against South Africa in the third and final T20 at Lahore's Gaddafi Stadium. After losing 6 quick wickets, David Miller came to South Africa's rescue with a hard-hitting 85. Both teams have won 1 match each. It's now time for a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. In Pakistan, Chairman Joint Chiefs of Staff Committee General Nadeem Raza says the conduct of Aman exercise shows the country's resolve for regional peace. He said this while witnessing the band display by naval forces from different countries participating in the drills. General Raza said that the exercise will help promote regional stability and a united resolve against threats in maritime domain. He said Pakistan has demonstrated its commitment to forge peaceful coexistence. He also hailed the Pakistan Navy's efforts in conducting the multinational exercise in a befitting manner. Naval Chief Admiral Mohammad Amjad Khan Niazi was also present at the occasion. Over 40 countries, including the United States, Russia, China, and Turkey, are taking part in the drills, which will continue till the 16th of this month. India's opposition has slammed the federal government for intentionally ignoring prior knowledge of the PULWAMA attack. 40 Indian soldiers were killed in the attack in occupied Jammu and Kashmir's PULWAMA district on this day in 2019.
On the second anniversary of the Pulwama attack, Indian opposition party Congress has questioned Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government over not disclosing the reality about the incident. Earlier this year, leaked WhatsApp chat of Indian television host Arnab Goswami revealed New Delhi knew about the attack beforehand. New Delhi was quick to blame Islamabad right after the attack without any proof, despite Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan assured full cooperation in the probe. In the days following the attack, Pakistan cooperated in every way to investigate the violence. Last year, Islamabad submitted a dossier to the United Nations with proofs showing how the attack was a false flag operation. Pakistan has already warned the world regarding India's more false flag operations. Islamabad said the Indian government will use such operations as a pretext to attack Pakistan and to justify its oppression of Kashmiris.
In India, farmer leaders have condemned the arrest of 22-year-old climate change activist Disha Ravi. She was arrested after sharing a document first posted by Greta Thunberg in support of farmers' protest against new agriculture laws. Ravi is accused of criminal conspiracy and sedition. Earlier, Delhi police also filed a case against the Swedish activist. The protests are now in their third month, but the Modi government remains failed to end the deadlock. Recently, many prominent politicians and celebrities from across the world voiced support for the farmers, prompting anger from New Delhi. In India, rescue officials have discovered 12 more bodies from the flash flood hit areas of Uttarakhand's Chamoli district. This has raised the death toll from last week's glacier disaster to 50, with about 154 still missing. Police said that the bodies buried in a slush were recovered from the main tunnel in a hydropower project in Tapovan. The desert was went apart when the glacier near the Nanda Devi mountain broke off on the 7th of February. The subsequent flooding damaged 2 power plants in the northern Indian state. Meanwhile, the search operation is underway for about 30 remaining workers feared to be trapped in the tunnel. In Afghanistan, the government claims to have killed 13 Taliban fighters in airstrikes in the Kandahar province. The attack comes soon after the group blamed Kabul for a surge of deadly violence. But National Security Advisor Hamdullah Mohib says that the Taliban have so far shown no desire for peace. Violence across Afghanistan has escalated even as the Taliban and the Afghan government are holding peace talks in Qatar. A string of attacks in recent weeks has killed government officials, judges, and activists. The Saudi-led military coalition in Yemen says it has intercepted and destroyed 2 Houthi drones targeting Saudi Arabia. In a statement, the coalition spokesperson said that the attack was aimed at civilians in the southern Saudi Arabia part. The rebels regularly targeted the kingdom using drones and missiles, many of which Riyadh has intercepted. The latest attack comes only days after the United States revoked the designation of Houthis as a terrorist organization. Turkey says it has conducted the second phase of the Operation Claw Eagle against the PKK terrorists in northern Iraq. Ankara launched the operation as an act of self-defense to prevent the terror group from re-establishing positions. Speaking in Sirnak province, Defense Minister Hulusi Akar said 48 militants were neutralized during the operation. He said these included 2 senior members. Akar said 2 terrorists were captured and the region was mostly cleared of the presence of the group. He added that Turkish forces returned home safely after concluding the critical operation. In Israel, thousands took to the streets of Jerusalem in protest against Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Demonstrations over Netanyahu's indictment and handling of the COVID-19 outbreak have entered their 34th week. The protesters holding banners gathered outside Netanyahu's residence in West Jerusalem, calling for his resignation. With just a month left in the elections, Netanyahu is facing severe public anger and is also undergoing a trial in court. The embattled Israeli Prime Minister faces charges of bribery, fraud, and breach of trust. Thousands of anti-coup protesters have taken to the streets in Myanmar's major cities for a 9th straight day.
A convoy of thousands on motorbikes and in cars drove through the capital, Naypyidaw. Residents banded together to patrol streets in Yangon and second city Mandalay. Meanwhile, the military has reinstated a law requiring people to report their overnight visitors to local authorities as police hunt protesters. The new rulers have suspended laws constraining security forces from detaining suspects or searching private property without court approval. They have also ordered the arrest of well-known backers of mass protests. According to a monitoring group, more than 384 people have been arrested since the February 1st coup.
In Thailand, pro-democracy activists clashed with police after draping Bangkok's democracy movement in a red cloth. They said that the red cloth on the monument represented the blood of fighters for democracy. Protesters threw paint at police and several small bangs were heard during a standoff near the city shrine. Police said over 20 officers were injured in the clashes and 8 people were detained for questioning. The demonstration was in reaction to this week's arrests of 4 protest figures under charges of insulting the monarchy. The student movement emerged last year and smashed long-held taboos by openly criticizing the king. In Kosovo, voting has begun to elect a new parliament. Around 1.8 million people are eligible to vote for the 120-seat House. Pre-poll surveys show the anti-establishment Veteran Dosji party as the favorite. These are the second parliamentary elections in Kosovo over the past 1.5 years. It comes after the Constitutional Court ruled the parliamentary vote that installed Abdullah HOUTHI as prime minister was invalid. The government, which was elected by 61 deputies in parliament, fell after the decision of the court. The vote is expected to further complicate a decades-long territorial dispute with Siberia, which does not recognize Kosovo. The U.S. Senate has acquitted former President Donald Trump in his second impeachment trial over the Capitol riots. The violence on the 6th of January left 5 people dead, including a police officer. This report has more.
Barely a month since the deadly Washington, D.C. Capitol riots stunned the world, the U.S. Senate convened for a rare weekend session to deliver its verdict on the trial to impeach former President Donald Trump for incitement of insurrection. The 100-member chamber voted 57 to 43, falling 10 votes short of the 2/3 majority required to convict Trump. In a statement following his acquittal, Trump denounced the trial as the greatest witch hunt in history. Trump's lawyers said they were extremely gratified over the outcome.
Thank you all for coming. Obviously, this was a difficult period of time for our country. And myself, Mr. Van der Veen, and the other members of the team are extraordinarily gratified that the United States Senate decided, as they did, to protect our constitutional way of life and not go down the road of endless impeachments.
Reacting to acquittal of Trump, President Joe Biden says democracy is fragile and every American has a duty to defend the truth. Meanwhile, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi slammed Republican senators for voting to acquit Trump.
Oh, these cowardly senators who couldn't face up to what the president did and what was at stake for our country are now going to have a chance to give a little slap on the wrist. We censure people for using stationery for the wrong purpose. We don't censure people for inciting insurrection that kills people in the Capitol.
Trump is the first U.S. president in history to be impeached twice and the first to face a trial after leaving office. If he had been convicted, the Senate could have voted to bar him from running for office again.
It's now time for a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. China has slammed the United States statement accusing Beijing of lack of transparency in sharing the WHO information regarding origins of COVID-19. Earlier, U.S. National Security Advisor expressed concerns about the way China communicated the findings of the WHO's team. In a statement, the Chinese embassy in Washington said U.S. criticism damaged multilateral cooperation and the WHO. It said that the United States should not be pointing fingers at China and others who supported the health organization during the pandemic. It added Washington should hold itself to the highest standards instead of talking aim to other countries. Meanwhile, members of the WHO team also refuted Washington's allegations. Peter Daska said that he found trust and openness with Chinese counterparts. The coronavirus has so far claimed nearly 2.4 million lives and infected over 108.5 million people. More about the pandemic in this report.
As governments across the world scramble to iron out hurdles in their vaccine drives, people are running out of patience. In Germany, protesters took to the streets in Berlin to protest coronavirus restrictions. 8 protesters were arrested in Cyprus after anti-COVID restrictions crowds clashed with the police in Nicosia. In Canada's British Columbia, hundreds gathered to oppose the curbs, calling them unconstitutional. Meanwhile, the virus continues to ravage the Americans, with over 484,000 dead in the U.S. to date. In South America, Mexico is going through its worst times, with over 1,200 deaths in the past 24 hours. Brazil is still among the countries with the highest fatality rate, reporting over 1,000 more deaths and more than 44,000 cases overnight. Peru's health minister, Pilar Mazzatti, has stepped down over inoculating the president before the vaccine became widely available in the country. The Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus has extended its full-scale curfew to stem the spread of COVID-19 until February 2nd.
While in Pakistan, 58 more people have lost their lives to COVID-19, raising the death toll to 12,307. The health ministry says 1,404 people tested positive for the virus overnight. The ministry said the total number of cases detected in Pakistan has crossed 563,000. Over 525,000 people have recovered from the virus itself. The number of active COVID-19 cases in the country stands at 25,635. The ministry says just over 2,000 patients of COVID-19 are admitted across the country. Catalan voters are heading to the polls for an election that will test the strength of the Spanish region's pro-independence movement. Opinion polls show the anti-independence socialists slightly ahead of the rival separatists. They also point to a lower voter turnout amid the pandemic and the risk of a surge in infections. But the socialists will need to support from other parties to form the first anti-independence regional government in 9 years. In the latest election, an anti-independence centralist party placed first, but the two main rival separatist parties elbowed it out to form a new government. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, 11 people have been killed after insurgents attacked 2 military sites in the southern city of Lubumbashi. Authorities say 4 soldiers died during the exchange of fire with the attackers, while 6 insurgents were killed in the attack. The attack also left a civilian dead and several others wounded. Last year, attacks by the militiamen left more than 20 dead in the region. In Guinea, 4 people have died of Ebola in the first resurgence of the disease after 5 years. Health officials say another 5 have tested positive for the virus in the southeastern part of the country. The patients fell ill with diarrhea, vomiting, and bleeding after attending a burial in the Nizirikori region. Officials say the 5 still alive have been isolated in treatment centers. The last major outbreak of Ebola in West Africa started in Guinea, which went on to kill over 11,000 people. Earlier this month, Congo reported 3 new Ebola cases in eastern North Kivu province. More than 100 people have been injured after a major 7.3 magnitude earthquake jolted northeastern Japan. The country's meteorological agency says that the quake struck off the Fukushima prefecture at a depth of 60 kilometers. The agency said that the quake was an aftershock of the devastating quake that struck the same area in 2011. The quake triggered power outages, halting trains and causing a landslide. The quake also shook buildings in the Japanese capital, Tokyo, hundreds of kilometers away. Aftershocks reaching 4.7 magnitude continued for hours following the tremor. The Met Agency has warned of aftershocks for several days. Earthquakes are common in Japan, which accounts for about 20% of the world's quakes for magnitude 6 or greater. Russian President Vladimir Putin says the policy of deterring Russia is intensifying as the country grows stronger. He said that Russia's potential adversaries are more and more irked by its success. In a meeting with media outlets, Putin said Russia's influence in the post-Soviet space is growing and the opponents want to counter it. Meanwhile, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and the U.S. Special Envoy John Kerry have agreed to promote bilateral cooperation on climate change. In a phone conversation, Lavrov welcomed Washington's return to the Paris Accord. This comes ahead of preparatory events for the 26th United Nations Climate Change Conference in Glasgow. In the Netherlands, sub-zero temperatures have frozen many water bodies across the country. Citizens were quick to capitalize on the situation and went skating on the icy surfaces. More in this report.
With most places closed across the country due to a lockdown, citizens have found themselves at a loss for entertainment. But thanks to the recent drop in temperatures, frozen lakes and ponds have provided an interesting opportunity to have fun. Locals are now taking full advantage of nature's skating rinks.
This is the perfect reason to go out and have a little fun with the museums and everything being closed. So this is perfect what you can do besides walking, because I think everybody saw the whole of Amsterdam with walking.
Members of a local skating club had been out to drill a small hole in the ice to measure its thickness. They have made sure locals could venture into the center of the pond safely.
Yesterday we had almost 7 centimeters of ice. That was on Wednesday afternoon when children were no longer in school. There was also a little snow that covered the ice, so we opened up the pond, which did undermine the ice, but there were a lot of children who had a great time.
Queues have formed around repair shops as locals prepared for a weekend skating in the center of Amsterdam. They say everyone in the country loves to skate, so the cold weather is no obstacle to their high spirits.
A citizen in Germany has created Playmobil processions to get around the cancellations of carnivals amid the pandemic. Details in this report.
For many in Germany, Carnival is a serious matter, especially the famous Rosenmontag parade in Cologne, where decorated floats and people in costume walk through the city, throwing sweets to the crowds. However, the carnival was cancelled this year due to the pandemic, and the city had to find some other way for the show to go on. Subsequently, the carnival organizers called for people to recreate the parade using toy figures. This inspired the Goosberg family to recreate the Rosenmontag parade in a very artistic and detailed manner using their Playmobil.
Decisive for the idea was actually the Bonn Carnival Festival Committee, which, due to the cancellation Rose Monday parade or the cancelled carnival in general, asked for people to recreate it with toy figures. Yes, that was actually the initial spark for the idea, and then I really got into it, so to speak, and first grabbed my children's Playmobil, and then we started the procession, and then it got bigger and bigger.
The thoughtful solution by Carnival Organizing Committee has provided the Germans an opportunity to enjoy their cultural activities amid coronavirus lockdown.
Saudi Arabia and Qatar have resumed trading goods through the Salwa and Abu Samra border crossing. Qatari authorities say preventive measures will be in place to prevent the spread of COVID-19 between the ports. It said truck drivers arriving at the port must have a certificate showing negative COVID-19 test results recognized by the Saudi Health Ministry. This comes a month after the Gulf states restored diplomatic relations with Doha, ending a 3-year diplomatic dispute. Stocks in the Gulf are trading mixed, with most bourses hovering around the flat line. The Dubai financial market traded roughly flat, with companies moving in opposite directions. Finance plunged 5%, while the Islamic Arab Insurance advanced over 3.5%. The Abu Dhabi Securities Exchange dipped fractionally, with the banking stocks weighing the most. Qatar Exchange moved a little, with Qatar Insurance slipping 1%, and the Kuwait Premier Index trading unchanged. It's now time for a short break. Stay with us. It's now time to take a look at the weather around the world. For the latest news updates, you can follow us on our social media at Indus.News.